5 Israeli hostages killed in Hamas captivity were recovered from an underground tunnel network in the northern Gaza. The 3 soldiers and 2 civilians were among 240 people taken hostages by terror group Hamas of October 7. Israel said the circumstances of the killing is being probed. Meanwhile, Israeli army on Sunday released footage showing what it said an operation to dismantle Hamas's northern underground headquarters in Gaza. The video showed a section of tunnel lined with white tiles as well as a similarly designed bathroom with a basic shower, toilet and sink, and a workroom with a corner table and bench. One tunnel had a drinking water dispenser and a pile of bullets.
The Israeli forces uncovered and dismantled a network of terrorist tunnels of Hamas in Gaza. This is a network that was the northern headquarters of Hamas in Gaza. In the headquarters, which is located dozens of meters underground, we found weapons, infrastructure for production of weapons, laboratories where weapons were produced.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israeli forces are going deeper into Gaza Strip. Netanyahu, in a video statement on Sunday, said fight will continue until the total victory over Hamas. Expressing grief over the rising toll of soldiers in the conflict, Netanyahu said Israel is paying a heavy price.
We are deepening the war in Gaza Strip. We will continue to fight until the total victory over. We will continue to fight until the total victory over Hamas. This is the only way to return our hostages, eliminate Hamas, and ensure that Gaza will no longer be a threat to Israel. The war has a price, a very heavy price in the lives of heroic warriors. And we are doing everything to safeguard the lives of our warriors. But one thing we'll not do, we'll not stop until we achieve victory.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has denied a report in the Wall Street Journal which said US President Joe Biden had stopped Israel from making a preemptive strike on Hamas ally Hezbollah in Lebanon. With more details about the report and some analysis on the US's relationship with Israel, here's our Washington correspondent Jagrati Dave.
Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, US President Joe Biden held a call with Benjamin Netanyahu on October the 11th. That is something that we know, but on that call, the Wall Street Journal is saying that the US president urged Mr. Netanyahu to stop a preemptive strike on Hezbollah, Hamas's ally, their forces, Hezbollah forces in Lebanon. It says, the report in the Wall Street Journal, that the US was disputing Israeli intelligence that suggested that Hezbollah forces were going to commit an attack across the border. And so, as a result of these reports, Benjamin Netanyahu said that, that this is not true, that Israel is a sovereign state. He said, our decisions in the war are based on our operational considerations, and I will not elaborate on that. Netanyahu insisted on Sunday that Israel's actions are not dictated by external pressures. Now, this is interesting given the relations between the US and Israel. Historically, they've enjoyed very close ties. United States presidents and Israeli leaders have historically been close. And US President Joe Biden has also had close relations with Israeli leaders. So there is a sense that the US has influence over Israel. However, the United States is also aware of the public sentiment here in the US about the rising death toll in Gaza, and it has led the US to make equivocal criticism of Israel, saying that, veiled criticism, perhaps you could say, that Israel needs to take every possible precaution not to harm civilians. And there are also clearly differences between the United States and Israel over the long-term plan for Gaza. So all of these considerations are playing out as the war in the Middle East shows no signs of abating anytime soon. Jagrati Dave in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Now shifting focus to Russia-Ukraine conflict, where two sides pressed on with their military operations on Sunday, striking each other's military targets, including weapon depots, fighter jets and drones, according to official briefings from the two countries. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army, destroying Ukraine's ammunition depots as well as weaponry, and shot down multiple Ukrainian drones. Russian forces also shot down 4 Ukrainian fighter jets. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their offensive operations and shot down 1 Russian Sukhoi Su-34 fighter jet, attacked Russian troops' concentrations, and destroyed Russian weaponry over the past 24 hours. Five civilians killed in Russian attacks on southern Ukraine's Kherson region, while 1 person was killed and 6 others wounded in Russian-controlled Horlivka as a result of Kyiv's shelling. The deaths in Kherson occurred in incessant Russian shelling of the city and the region, Ukrainian officials said. Kherson's regional military administration said gas and water supplies were partially cut off due to the attacks, which also hit a medical facility. In Horlivka, an area of Ukraine's Donetsk region under Russian control, Ukraine's shelling destroyed a shopping center and several other buildings. For the first time, Ukraine is celebrating Christmas on December 25, after the government changed the date from January 7, a move aimed at distancing the country from Russian traditions. Ukrainian attended prayer services on Sunday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered Christmas message to Ukrainians, assuring them of eventual victory over Russia.
We pray for the end of the war. We pray for the victory. We will do it today too, no matter where we are, no matter where we mark Christmas. Today, all Ukrainians are together. We mark Christmas all together on the same date as one big family, as one nation, as one united country. Step by step, day by day, darkness is losing, and darkness will finally lose. The evil will lose.
Military chaplain visited Ukrainian soldiers stationed near the frontline city of Kupiansk in eastern Ukraine on Christmas Eve. Ukrainian soldiers, part of the 14th Separate Mechanized Brigade, attended a service led by archpriest and later shared a Christmas Eve dinner featuring traditional Ukrainian dishes like kutia, a sweet grain dish. In the past, Ukrainian Christians mostly celebrated Christmas in early January. This year, the holiday is celebrated on December 25 as Ukraine's main Orthodox church has broken with Moscow and turned its face towards the west. Parliament passed a law earlier this year shifting Christmas officially to December 25. Ukrainian couple Lesia Shestakova, a Catholic, and Alexander Shestakov, an Orthodox believer, will for the first time celebrate Christmas together on December 25. Ukraine, like Russia, officially observed Orthodox Christmas on January 7, according to the Julian calendar, until Kyiv passed a law earlier this year, shifting the date to December 25 in line with other Western European countries. Both Lesia and Alexander agreed that distancing from Russian religious and cultural traditions will consolidate Ukraine even more.
There is a final day in Ukraine which my husband and I spent together in the cathedral, and thank God we are together alive and in a good health. Our families will celebrate together too.
Russian President Vladimir Putin chaired a meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council in St. Petersburg. The council is an economic union of Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. The meeting will be followed by an informal summit of the leaders of Commonwealth of Independent States. DD India correspondent Dasha Chernysova has more from Moscow.
Leaders of the Eurasian Economic Union that comprises of 5 post-Soviet states are meeting in St. Petersburg, and Russian President Vladimir Putin will chair a meeting of the Supreme Council as member states are to sign several documents. The Kremlin says among those will be an agreement on free trade zone with Iran. The meeting is also expected to sign a declaration on further development of the Union until 2030 and for the period until 2045. The leaders will sum up the work of the Union under Russian chairmanship in 2023 and discuss the spheres where tighter integration is needed. In St. Petersburg, Russian President will also hold a traditional informal meeting of the CIS heads of states. The Kremlin says it expects serious and substantiative discussions. Moscow also hopes that Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan will accept Putin's invitation and attend both of these events. Armenia has skipped previous collective security treaty organizations meetings at various levels, saying that Azerbaijan's actions and inaction of the CSTO forced Yerevan to seek to diversify its relations in the security area. Dasha Cherneshova reported in Moscow for DD India.
Moving on now, Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General for Yemen, Hans Grundberg, announced a major breakthrough following a series of meetings in Riyadh and Muscat, which has been welcomed by Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry, stating that the ministry reiterates the kingdom's continued support for Yemen and its brotherly people and its constant keenness to encourage the Yemeni parties to sit at the dialogue table, the Saudi state news agency SPA reported on Sunday. The meetings resulted in a commitment by all the parties to implement a series of measures aimed at establishing a nationwide ceasefire, improving living conditions, and resuming an inclusive political process under the support and guidance of the United Nations. Houthi rebels in Yemen have stepped up attacks on vessels in the Red Sea since November 19 to show support for Hamas. These attacks have not just disrupted the key trade route, but also posed a threat to global economy. More in this report.
The surge in attacks targeting merchant vessels in the Red Sea is compelling companies to divert their ships onto lengthier routes, putting a significant stress on the global economy. In the past week, Houthi rebels in Yemen have fired missiles at container ships in the Red Sea. Houthi representatives have declared their intention to continue with attacks targeting ships associated with Israel in any capacity. They cite their support for Hamas and express these actions as a form of protest against Israel's military operations in Gaza. Major shipping entities like Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd and MSC have opted to avoid the Red Sea. They're implementing a precautionary measure by halting their vessels prior to navigating through the Bab el-Mandab Strait en route to the Suez Canal. The Indian Navy's mission-deployed platforms demonstrated prompt response to a maritime incident in the Arabian Sea involving a missile or drone attack on empty Camp Pluto. Reacting quickly, the Indian Navy diverted a maritime patrol aircraft which was undertaking routine surveillance in the area. Additionally, the Indian Navy redirected the naval ship Maruga to assess the situation and offer assistance to MV Camp Pluto. Bureau Report, DD India.
Moving on now, Turkey's Air Force conducted airstrikes in northern Iraq and Syria and destroyed 29 targets of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party after 12 soldiers were killed in the past 2 days in northern Iraq. Defense Minister Yasar Guler, he has said that it has neutralized 30 PKK militants in northern Iraq so far. Guler was at the command center following the airstrikes overnight and addressed the pilots, congratulating them for a successful operation. Later on Sunday, he attended the funerals of the soldiers killed and visited the wounded who are being treated in hospital. Turkey regularly carries out airstrikes in neighboring Iraq as part of its offensive against PKK militants based. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Thousands gather in Serbian capital Belgrade to protest recently held polls, demand annulment. Indian plane passengers held in France over suspected human trafficking could leave Monday. And Peruvian police carried out a drug bust operation with a special help. Stay tuned to know. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Stories related to elections across the globe now. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić urged a group of opposition leaders to stop the hunger strike a week after parliamentary election won by Serbia's ruling Serbian Progressive Party. The total of 5 prominent opposition leaders have been on hunger strike, including Miroslav Aleksić and Marinika Tepić, who started the strike on December 18. The opposition alleged major election law violations in Belgrade city parliament races, including voter registration fraud, bribery and result rigging, and demanded it be rerun.
To all those who are on a hunger strike, I would like to ask that they all end their hunger strike since, honestly, elections were not called at the time because, despite their lack of legitimacy, we had really won the elections and they had lost by a margin of 2-1. They didn't really care, and it is a significant difference if compared to the present situation. So let them return to their duties. They can organize protests every day.
Meanwhile, thousands gathered in the Serbian capital in an anti-government protest which turned into clashes with riot police. Protesters hurled stone at Belgrade City Hall, demanding the annulment of parliamentary and local elections. Police fired pepper spray after a crowd tried to break in the Belgrade City Hall, where the local election commission is based. Some of the protesters climbed the building and broke windows. Earlier, an international monitoring mission said the ruling party gained an unfair advantage in snap parliamentary elections through media bias, the improper influence of President Aleksandar Vučić, and voting irregularities such as vote buying. Chad's new constitution was approved by 86% of voters in a referendum held a week ago, but opposition leaders challenged the figures. The country's military rulers have promoted the new constitution, but it had been denounced by opposition politicians, with some calling for a boycott of the December 17 vote. Turnout stood at 63.75%, the Electoral Commission said, which opposition leaders contested. The electoral authorities said that apart from some minor dysfunctions, the referendum had passed off smoothly. The results are preliminary, with the definite results due from the Supreme Court on December 28. Tunisia held first local polls under the new constitution. The voting was the first step in determining the composition of a new local and regional national council. However, parties across the political spectrum boycotted the election. They argue the election is the latest step in the president's authoritarian agenda. Tunisia has been in the throes of a deep political crisis that has aggravated the country's economic conditions since 2021, when President Kais Saied ousted the government and dissolved parliament. Moldova's pro-European president, Maia Sandu, intends to run for a second presidential term in late 2024. She also called on Parliament to begin preparations for a referendum on the country's drive to join the European Union. The country's most prominent opposition figure, socialist pro-Russian former President Igor Dodon, denounced both her intention to seek re-election and the call for a referendum. A former World Bank economist, Sandu has made EU membership the cornerstone of her program since defeating Dodon in landslide election in December 2020. An EU summit earlier this month gave the go-ahead to start membership talks with both Moldova and Ukraine. And thousands of migrants left the town of Tapachula in southern Mexico early with the hope of reaching the United States. Leading the caravan were migrants carrying a cross, a Mexican flag, and a large banner that read, "Poverty Exodus." The procession came just days before Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Mexico City to hammer out new agreements to control the surge of migrants seeking entry into the United States. Migrants are heading through Mexico to the US to escape violence, economic distress, and negative impacts of climate change. This month, as many as 10,000 migrants were arrested per day at the US southwest border. 16 people have been killed in an attack in Nigeria's north-central state of Plateau. Clashes between herders and farmers are common in this area. Plateau is one of several ethnically and religiously diverse hinterland where intercommunal conflict has claimed hundreds of lives in recent years. The violence is often painted as an ethno-religious conflict between Muslim herders and mainly Christian farmers. Australia will provide around $325 million to Bangladesh for dignified return of over 1 million forcibly displaced Rohingyas to their motherland in Myanmar. The commitment came when outgoing Australian High Commissioner in Dhaka made a farewell call on Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at her official residence in Dhaka on Sunday. During the meeting, the envoy reiterated his country's support to Bangladesh for dignified return of more than 1 million forcibly displaced Rohingya people to Myanmar. Argentina's government has scheduled emergency sessions of parliament beginning this week to address a package of controversial reforms by President Javier Milei, who has ordered a broad deregulation of the economy. Milei himself issued the call late Friday for Congress to open an extraordinary session from December 26 through January 31st, following a week of protests against the reforms contained in a presidential decree that needs an endorsement by legislators. The main focus is the libertarian Milei's mega decree that changes or scraps more than 350 economic regulations in a country that has grown accustomed to heavy government intervention in the market. Congress has 10 days to approve or reject the decree in its entirety, with its possibility of a line item veto. A number of civic groups on Saturday filed a judicial motion to have the mega decree declared unconstitutional, which could end up before the Supreme Court. To overturn the decree, majorities in both houses of Congress must vote it down. If lawmakers fail to take action, the decree comes into force on December 29. Britain will deploy a naval ship off Guyana later this month, its Ministry of Defense said on Sunday, as the South American nation faces a border dispute with neighbor Venezuela over the oil-rich Essequibo region. The deployment follows a visit by a British junior foreign minister to Guyana earlier this month, intended to offer the UK support for countries an ally and former British colony. Guyana and Venezuela agreed earlier this month to avoid any use of force and not to escalate tensions in the long-running dispute. Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino said in a social media post on Sunday that his country would remain on alert following provocations that put at risk the peace and stability of the Caribbean and our America. The weather in Hong Kong has become more chilly, with residents battering a combination of cold temperatures and occasional showers. Residents have been advised to avoid staying on high ground and open areas for extended periods of time. The chilly weather forecast is expected to continue throughout the Christmas holidays, with temperatures gradually rising to about 17 degrees sometime around the middle of next week. Moving on now, the death toll in the aftermath of 6.2 magnitude earthquake in China has gone up to 149, with 2 people still missing according to the state media report. The epicenter of the quake affected the provinces of Gansu and Qinghai, with Gansu bearing the brunt of quake's wrath. More than 200,000 homes were wrecked, while 15,000 were on the brink of collapse. The severity of the damage impact was attributed to the shallowness of the quake, the thrust-type rupture of the earthquake, and the relatively soft sedimentary rock in the region also amplified the destructive power of the tremors. Christmas is being celebrated across the world with religious fervor and joy. Pope Francis kicked off global Christmas celebrations in St. Peter's Square. Leading the world's Roman Catholics into Christmas, the pontiff, celebrating the 11th Christmas of his pontificate, delivered a solemn Christmas Eve Mass calling for peace around the world. The Eve Mass saw faithful individuals worldwide express a common desire for peace. Bethlehem, the biblical city where Christians believe Jesus Christ was born more than 2,000 years ago, cancelled its annual Christmas celebrations due to the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. Hundreds of Catholics attended Christmas Eve Mass at Beijing's South Cathedral, marking the first since a 5-year renovation. The Vatican and Beijing have faced tension over the appointment of Roman Catholic bishops in China, a historic agreement since the 1950s aiming to ease divisions. NORAD, a joint operation between the US and Canadian militaries, has repositioned radars and satellites to track Santa Claus on his worldwide Christmas Eve mission. The Santa Tracker, launched in its 68th year, offers interactive games, videos and educational content. Thousands of people dressed as Santa Claus ran through central Madrid on Sunday in a traditional charity race to raise money for the Red Cross. Many children dressed as elves in green robes also took part in the 5-kilometer race along Madrid's Paseo de la Castellana Avenue. Organizers say the Santa-themed race is the largest of its kind in the world. While palm trees and calm weather may not scream Christmas, Dubai is pulling out all the stops to celebrate the festive season. Al Seef, the 1.8 kilometers waterfront promenade, is emerging as the dazzling crown jewel. The historic waterfront district has transformed into a winter wonderland, pulsating with festive spirit under the cool Arabian Sea. Oaxacans enjoy ornate taproot sculptures during the Night of the Radishes. Artists and gardeners gather to display intricately carved radishes reflecting themes from religion to daily life. The tradition dates back to 16th century when Spanish friars encouraged local indigenous workers to cultivate and carve radishes to boost sales. Wars between powerful and heavily armed gangs have gravely affected the lives of refugees in Haiti. Christmas spirit was dampened among families displaced by gang violence and living in a shelter in Port-au-Prince on Saturday. The United Nations had earlier ratified sending an international force of troops volunteered by member nations to support the national police in dealing with these gangs. Peruvian police carried out a drug bust operation with the special help of Santa Claus in Huacal, near the capital Lima. Officers dressed as Santa broke down a door with sledgehammer and helped to detain suspects. 2 men were arrested for selling drugs. The annual Surfing Santa Day on Florida's Cocoa Beach saw hundreds of surfing Santas and elves take to the waves. The 15-year event, which began as a simple family beach day, has grown into a beloved tradition for locals and visitors, blending Florida's sunshine and Christmas spirit. Participants enjoyed live music, a costume contest, and watched the Santas ride the waves. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Prime Minister will release first series of 11 volumes of collected works of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya on 162nd birth anniversary. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with 250 students from Jammu and Kashmir as part of Watan Ko Jano program. And India's Sports Ministry asks IOA to form an ad hoc committee.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Israel says 5 Gaza hostages found dead in tunnel, circumstances being probed. PM Netanyahu says Israel paying heavy price for war. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar begins Russia visit from Monday to discuss bilateral, multilateral and international issues with his counterpart, to also meet Deputy PM. India observes Good Governance Day on the birth anniversary of former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Joy of Christmas transcends differences and fosters sense of togetherness. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will begin his 5-day Russia visit on Monday as a part of the ongoing high-level exchanges between the two sides. And during his visit, EAM will meet Deputy Prime Minister and Industry and Trade Minister Denis Manturov to discuss matters related to economic engagement. EAM will meet his counterpart Sergei Lavrov for discussion on bilateral, multilateral and international issues. Focusing on the strong people-to-people and cultural ties between our two countries, EAM's program will include engagements in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. The time-tested India-Russia partnership has remained stable and resilient and continues to be characterized by the spirit of the special and privileged strategic partnership. A Nicaragua-bound flight carrying 303 passengers, mostly Indians, was allowed to resume its journey after 3 days of grounding by the French authorities at an airport near Paris. French prosecutors on Sunday gave the go-ahead for the plane to leave after questioning the passengers for 2 days. The plane is expected to take off again on Monday morning. Their hearings were conducted as part of the investigation opened by the Paris prosecutor's office. And DD India correspondent Meghna Dev joins us for more on phone line. Meghna, can you please provide details on why the Nicaragua-bound flight with mostly Indian passengers was grounded by French authorities for 3 days near Paris?
So that's what we definitely knew. Like a couple of days, we saw the French embassy, the Indian embassy in France put out a post on X where they said that there were a few passengers in a flight which was French authorities had informed them of a plane with about 303 people who were mostly of Indian origin. Then the flight was going from Dubai to Nicaragua, and it was detained on a technical halt at the French airport. And then the embassy team had reached there and obtained consular access. Now this flight, what it is being called as a Romanian aircraft, now it had come there for a technical halt. That was being said that it is a halt for refueling. And after that, media reports suggested that there was a tip-off on these people being trafficked. Now after that, what happened is that the emergency services in Marne in northeast France installed makeshift beds for the passengers who were given access to facilities, and then there was an investigation into suspected human trafficking that was being reported. But after that, what we get to know that there was nothing substantial, and that's why now the flight has been given a go-ahead. Most of the information that we get are through the French media reports.
Okay, the flight has been given go-ahead by the authorities. Now, Meghna, what specific reasons were cited by French prosecutors for allowing the plane to resume its journey after questioning the passengers for 2 days?
So this A340 aircraft, which was operated by this Romanian company called Legend Airlines, the French judges, there were 4 French judges who began questioning the passengers who were detained by the French authorities. So we definitely have to understand that these people who were on the flight were not taken into custody. They were just detained for questioning at the Vatry airport, which is around 150 kilometers east of Paris. Now, when we actually see that the French judges chose to cancel the hearings of about 300 passengers due to irregularities in the procedure, that's what the French media has been reporting. As of now, also we do not actually know that where the flight is headed to. Is it going to Nicaragua, where it was originally headed? Is it going back to UAE, Dubai, where it initially took off, or it will come to India? So we will definitely have to see where the destination of the aircraft is.
Okay, no clarity as of now. But Meghna, could you elaborate on the nature of the investigation opened by the Paris prosecutor's office that led to the grounding of the flight?
So what we definitely see is that the tip-off that was received by the French authorities on this flight, which was on a technical halt with about 303 passengers, mostly Indians. This flight, there was a suspicion of human trafficking, which is according to local media reports. What we definitely get to know that there were judges who were interrogating the people, who were questioning the people and began questioning. We also see a number of media reports, the French media reports, where it was said that how there were a number of people, minors also there in the flight, and who were unaccompanied as well. So there were several reports floating on social media, as well as the French media had reported a lot on the issue as well. But there are major media reports which say that due to irregularities in the procedure, the judges chose to cancel the hearings, and that is the reason that this flight was allowed to resume its journey on Monday, which is today, after 3 days after it was detained by the French authorities at the Vatry airport in France.
All right, thanks for your analysis, Meghna. Now, Good Governance Day is being observed on Monday to commemorate 99th birth anniversary of former Prime Minister Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Atal Bihari Vajpayee may not be physically present among us today, but his entire life is an example. Embracing his personality and thoughts in our lives can be a true tribute to him.
Atal Bihari Vajpayee, born on 25th of December 1924 in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, had a political journey that spanned over 4 decades. In 1984, BJP had secured only 2 seats in the Lok Sabha. But in 1999, a coalition government was formed in the country under him. He had such a wide acceptance that even the opposition admired him. He contested the elections for the first time in 1952 for the parliament and the last time in 2004. Apart from his parliamentary life, Vajpayee had been associated with the Jan Sangh since long in his political life. Later, from 1977 to 1980, he remained a founding member of the Janata Party. During that time, the Jan Sangh merged into the Janata Party. He also held the position of foreign minister in Morarji Desai's government. Initially, he was the opposition leader in the Lok Sabha and then took the oath as Prime Minister for the first time in 1996. In 1999, Vajpayee took the oath as the Prime Minister for the 3rd time. He demonstrated that amid coalition politics and fragmentation, the boundaries of democracy and ethics could be maintained. During his tenure, India was entering the 21st century, and he provided the nation with a new goal and determination to improve infrastructure, roads, communication and security. Within his 13-month tenure, he made a courageous decision and conducted nuclear tests in Pokhran, making India a nuclear-powered nation. Apart from this, initiatives like Golden Quadrilateral for Infrastructure Development, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana and the start of a new telecom policy in the communications sector were all initiated under Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's leadership, from which the country is benefiting immensely today. In 2015, he was honored with the Bharat Ratna. At that time, breaking all protocols, President Pranab Mukherjee himself went to the former Prime Minister's residence and honored him with the country's highest civilian honor. Atalji's attractive personality and distinctive eloquence will always adorn Indian democracy.
President Draupadi Murmu led the nation in paying tribute to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. She offered floral tributes at Sadaiv Atal Memorial here in Delhi. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and several other leaders also paid floral tributes. Nirmala Sitharaman also paid floral tributes on the birth anniversary of former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And India is also observing the 162nd birth anniversary of eminent freedom fighter Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will release first series of 11 volumes of compilation collected works of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya here in New Delhi on Monday. In Amrit Kal, which marks 75 years of India's independence, it has been the vision of PM to bestow the much-deserved recognition to the Indian freedom fighters who contributed immensely to the service of the nation. The release of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya's work is an endeavour in this direction. The work, being released in both Hindi and English in 11 volumes, spread across about 4,000 pages, is a collection of the writings and speeches of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya collected from every nook and corner of the country. Well, let's take a look at other stories making news. Indian Navy is all set to commission its latest stealth-guided missile destroyer Imphal on December 26. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will serve as the chief guest of the event. The event marks the formal induction into the Navy of the third of 4 Visakhapatnam class destroyers indigenously designed and built. The Indian Army conducted a smartphone film-making course for youths in the city of Kupwara in North Kashmir. It aimed to foster creativity and skill development among the young youth and provided aspiring filmmakers in the region with the knowledge and tools needed to tell compelling stories. A modern and grand railway station is being built in Indian pilgrim city of Ayodhya, depicting the glory of Treta Yuga. The design of the railway station is a confluence of modern solutions with a touch of aesthetics of the Indian temple architecture. Spread across 11,000 square meter area, the central dome of the station's building is inspired from Lord Ram's mukut or crown, while the other 2 parts of the building are inspired from Janaki temple. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the first phase of the Ayodhya Junction on December 30th. Large number of devotees participate in the journey of Safar-e-Shahadat in India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir in Poonch district to mark the sacrifices made by the family of 10th Guru of Sikhs. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Chirag Sen and Anmol Kharb emerged champions in National Badminton Championships. And Christmas is being celebrated with great fervour and joy across India, with markets lit and churches decorated. World's biggest Santa Claus created with sand and onions. Where? We tell you ahead.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bhardwaj. Time now for sport. And India's Chirag Sen clinched the men's singles title, while Anmol Kharb won the women's singles crown at the National Badminton Championships in Guwahati on Sunday. The 25-year-old Chirag, who had beaten second seed Kiran George in the semi-final on Saturday, was engaged in a tough contest against fourth seeded Tharun. While Chirag took the opening game 21-14, he lost the second 13-21 before bouncing back to win the decider 21-9. In women's singles, Anmol, who came off a win over second seed Ashmita Chaliha in the semi-final, was up against Tanvi Sharma in the final. The two had a tough fight in the opening two games as the honours were shared until then. However, in the deciding game, Tanvi struggled with an injury and was compelled to retire, handing the reigning national under-17 girls champion Anmol a 15-21, 21-17, 16-8 win. India's Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports writes to the Indian Olympic Association, also known as IOA, to form an ad hoc committee for managing the daily affairs of Wrestling Federation of India. The move comes after India's Sports Ministry abstained the newly elected Executive Committee of the WFI from administering and managing the day-to-day activities of the Federation. According to an official statement by the ministry, the suspension comes after newly elected WFI President Sanjay Kumar Singh made hasty announcements without giving sufficient notice on national competitions. It seems Secretary General has not been involved in the said meeting of EC, which was held without any notice or quorum. The decisions made by the newly elected executive body of the WFI demonstrate a blatant disregard for established legal and procedural norms, violating both the WFI's constitutional provisions and the National Sports Development Code. Adherence to governance norms is vital for ensuring fair play, transparency and accountability. United World Wrestling is yet to issue official communication lifting the suspension of Wrestling Federation of India. Well, on to Christmas celebration from India now. Large number of devotees are participating in mass prayers being offered at Immaculate Conception Church in Goa on the occasion. Also, markets in the Goan capital Panji are decked up with Christmas trees and other decorative items. India's Prime Minister extended warm wishes to everyone on Christmas. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "May this festive season bring joy, peace and prosperity to all. Let's celebrate the spirit of harmony and compassion that Christmas symbolizes and work towards a world where everyone is happy and healthy. We also recall the noble teachings of Lord Christ." Well, DD India correspondent Yogesh Sheetal joins us from Mumbai. Yogesh, first of all, Merry Christmas. Good morning. How are the celebrations going on there?
Very good morning, Siddharth. Merry Christmas to you also, and also to our viewers. Especially when it comes to Mumbai, we know the festivity is always there through different mediums, like in shops and different markets. Everything is decked up. The dazzling festivity we are witnessing here in not only in Wadli, where I'm standing right now, but also the Majgaon, Mahim, Kurla, Bandra, all the pockets of Maharashtra, small pockets, are completely decorated at this point in time. We are at Wadli Church and we have Father Valencia. Father, welcome to DD India. What would you like to say about the festivity and what are the messages that you'd like to speak?
The Christian community in Lower Parel have been preparing for the last 4 Sundays. We call it the season of Advent, where we prepare ourselves through this Advent tree that is placed at this church. And it has 4 candles placed. So on the 4 Sundays of Advent, we light a candle and we have a prayer service so that we prepare our hearts to receive Jesus at Christmas. So last night at the midnight service, we had around 350 people on our grounds which were assembled for the prayer service. And we had a very meaningful prayer service with a message, "Come and be born in our hearts." The message was very clear, inviting the congregation, all the people, that we need Jesus to be born in our hearts more than going outside and enjoying ourselves. Christmas is all about having Jesus in our hearts so that we may take Jesus to one another around the world. What's happened today is that many people are all to themselves. They are engaged with their mobiles, and it is I, me and myself. I forget about the other. What's important is that we must take this message to others, and I have been telling my people that if you look at the crib that is in this church, Jesus chose to be born in this place where it was a place for others to come and feed themselves. So Jesus came and chose that place so that he may feed others. And that's why we have a celebration of the Eucharist where people come to share the one bread that Jesus broke himself in giving to others. The message is very clear that Jesus came into this world because he loved the world and he loved humanity. So he came as bread to be broken for others. And today, the message is very clear at Christmas that if we want to have a meaningful Christmas, we must break this bread and share it with others. If we share with one another, this is what the gospel tells us. Whatsoever you do to the least of these brothers and sisters which are lying on my streets, outside the church, hungry, going to bed without food, if we look after them and cater to their needs, that makes Christmas meaningful. And that is the message that we would like to give to all our people, that we must be bread to be given to others so that others can feed on what we have in our cupboards.
True. The sharing is the most important, since sharing is the most important component. I think that is what the crux of what the father said. Also, let me tell you to our listeners that Maharashtra government has made various arrangements to ensure that the festivity would continue, and also the relaxation has been given to the pub, to the restaurants, the hotels, permit rooms. They are now completely operational till late night, and also for 3 particular days, so 24th, 25th and 31st. The limit has been extended to 5 a.m. in the morning, so the party can be going on, the organized celebrations, the various parties, the singing, the carol singing, so all the parties further should uninterruptedly they will be going on, and that was the basic thing that the people were looking for. So on the government part also, on the society parts of the celebrations are on, and the law and order situations have also been tightened in the view of the congregation, in the view of the festivity, the congregation, and how the celebration are organized at various parts, and keeping the situation in the mind. So completely at this point in time, the festivities are on in Maharashtra and Mumbai also in particular. Yeah.
Very nicely explained the true meaning of Christmas. Well, thank you so much, Yogesh, for joining in. And meanwhile, world-renowned sand artist Doordarshan Patnaik unveiled a sand art sculpture at eastern India's Puri beach, depicting a reclining Santa Claus. Patnaik has created the sand art with the message, "Gift a plant, green the earth." The World Record Book of India has declared the sand art as the world's biggest onion and sand Santa Claus. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour, and Merry Christmas to all of you.